Part 1. Jungle Shadows, Guadalcanal, 1942. The deck of the USS Macaulay heaved like a living thing under Private First Class Tommy Tex Harlan's boots, the Solomon Islands' humid breath already seeping through the hatches as the troop transport sliced toward Guadalcanal on August 7, 1942. Harlan, a wiry 19-year-old from the dusty plains of Lubbock, Texas, clutched the rail with one hand and his M1903 Springfield rifle with the other, its 8-round stripper clip loaded with .30-06 cartridges that felt as heavy as his doubts. The Springfield, a bolt-action relic from the Great War, had been his constant companion since boot camp at Parris Island. Reliable in the sand, but slow as molasses in a firefight. "This ain't drill, boys," Sergeant Mike Ruiz barked from the bridge wing, his voice cutting through the rumble of diesels and the chatter of green recruits. Ruiz, a stocky Mexican-American from El Paso with a scar across his knuckles from a barroom brawl, led Fox Company, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines. "Japs got the airfield, Henderson Field. We take it, hold it, or die tryin'." Harlan nodded, his Stetson campaign hat tilted low against the spray, but his stomach knotted tighter than a hangman's noose. Pearl Harbor had yanked him from shearing sheep on his pa's ranch, trading barbed wire for bayonets in a war halfway around the world. The briefing in Wellington, New Zealand had painted Guadalcanal as a malarial hell, 90 miles of volcanic jungle, swamps teeming with crocs, and an Imperial Japanese Army garrison dug in like ticks. Operation Watchtower, the first Allied offensive in the Pacific since the Philippines fell, aimed to seize the unfinished airstrip and choke Japan's supply lines to Australia. But for Harlan and his squad, 11 leathernecks crammed into the hold with enough K-rations to last a week and prayers to last a lifetime, the reality was salt spray and seasickness. Dawn broke bloody as the Higgins boats nosed on to Red Beach, the coral reef a jagged gauntlet that shredded propellers and nerves alike. Japanese Type 95 Hago tanks, light as tin cans but spitting 37mm shells, rumbled from the tree line, their machine guns chattering like angry hornets. Harlan's boat grounded with a crunch, and he piled out knee-deep into the surf. The Springfield shouldered as bullets whipped the water into froth. "Move! Move!" Ruiz yelled, shoving Harlan toward the dune line. The landing was a miracle of slop. Only light resistance from a 900-man Japanese construction detachment caught flat-footed without their artillery. By noon, the Stars and Stripes flew over the airfield, rechristened Henderson Field, and the 1st Marine Division's 11,000 men fanned out to secure the perimeter. But victory's aftertaste was quinine bitterness. The jungle closed in like a fist. Kunai grass taller than a man, vines thick as ropes, and the incessant whine of mosquitoes carrying malaria's fever. Harlan's squad, Ruiz, the hard-bitten sergeant, Corporal Eddie Slim Kowalski, a Polish kid from Chicago with a deck of pinup cards, Private Leroy Gator Thibodeau, a Louisiana bayou boy who could smell rain 3 days off, and the rest, a patchwork of farm boys and factory hands, dug foxholes on the Ilu River's east bank, their Springfields propped like sentinels. The rifle's 43-inch length made it a beast to swing in the underbrush, its bolt action demanding a deliberate cycle after each shot. Bolt back, stripper clip in, bolt forward. Harlan practiced dry firing in the evenings, the metallic clack echoing his heartbeat. Word came on August 18th. The Japanese weren't quitting. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto's fleet was steaming south, with 6,000 troops under Major General Kiyotake Kawaguchi, bound for a flanking landing at Taivu Point. The Tokyo Express would run nightly, disgorging reinforcements under cover of darkness. Marines whispered of banzai charges, fanatical rushes with bayonets fixed, screaming banzai like demons from hell. The Japanese Type 99 Arisaka rifle, a 6.5mm bolt action with a brutal bayonet lug, was their equalizer. But in the close quarters tangle of Guadalcanal's ravines, speed killed. Harlan's first taste of it came at dusk on the 19th, during the Battle of the Tanaru River. Kawaguchi's vanguard probed the Marine lines, shadows slipping through the coconut groves. Ruiz's foxhole overlooked a sandbar choked with driftwood, the river a sluggish brown serpent under the moon. "Eyes open, Harlan," Ruiz growled, peering through his M1911 45 pistol sights. The pistol, with its 7-round magazine and thumb safety, was Ruiz's close-in savior, but for distance it was the Springfield or bust. A rustle in the kunai, then hell unleashed. Japanese infiltrators, faces blackened with charcoal, erupted from the grass, Arisakas leveled. Their first volley cracked like whips, 6.5mm rounds splintering palms and thunking into sandbags. Harlan's heart slammed as he worked the bolt. Crack, firing at a silhouette 50 yards out. The Springfield bucked, the 30-aught slug punching through the man's chest. But reloading stole an eternity. 5 rounds stripped in, bolt slammed home. Slim Kowalski fired beside him, his shot grazing a runner's leg, but the bolt jammed on a fresh clip, mud from the riverbank gumming the action. "Reloading!" Kowalski yelled, fingers fumbling in the dark. A Japanese lunged the line, bayonet gleaming, and Thibodeau clubbed him down with his rifle butt, the impact cracking bone. Ruiz's 45 barked twice, dropping another, but the charge swelled. 50, then 100, a human wave crashing the wire. Then, from the left flank, a new sound, not the deliberate cough of Springfield's, but a rapid staccato thunder. Crack, 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 like God's own typewriter. Harlan risked a glance. Army boys from the 164th Infantry Regiment, attached for the push, had arrived with their secret weapon. The M1 Garand, John C. Garand's semi-automatic marvel, chambered the same 30-06, but fed from an 8-round Bloc clip that ejected with a distinctive ping when empty. No bolt to cycle, just point, squeeze, and fire again. Up to 40 aimed shots a minute in skilled hands. The Army doughboys, fresh from stateside training, poured lead into the bonsai, the Garand's walnut stalk steady as they walked bursts across the horde. The Japanese faltered, stunned by the volume. Their Arisakas, masterful for marksmanship but glacial in volley, couldn't match it. One Imperial sergeant, later captured, would confess in broken English, "Your rifles, they speak without stopping, like machine guns in every man's hand." Harlan watched as a Garand-toting lieutenant dropped 3 chargers in as many seconds, the rifle's gas-operated action cycling flawlessly despite the humidity. The ping rang out, a metallic chime that cut through the din, signaling reload. But even that was swift. A fresh clip slapped in from the bandolier, the bolt locked open for instant feed. The tide broke. Marines surged from their holes, Springfield's bayoneted, but the Army's fire had blunted the edge. By dawn, 800 Japanese lay strewn along the sandbar. Kawaguchi's probe shattered with 100 Marines dead or wounded. Harlan slumped in his hole, hands trembling as he cleaned his Springfield, the bore swabbed with oil against the jungle's rot. "What the hell was that thunder?" he asked Ruiz, who was bandaging a graze on Thibodeau's arm. "The Garand, kid," Ruiz replied, lighting a lucky strike. "Army boys got 'em, semi-auto, 8 rounds, no pump in the bolt. Patton calls it the greatest battle tool ever made." He exhaled smoke, eyes distant. "Marines been begging for 'em since Wake Island, but Springfield's all we got. That ping, it's the sound of Jerry, or Japs, running scared. Word spread like malaria through the division. By late August, as the 1st Marines patrolled the Matanakaw River, scouting for Kawaguchi's regrouping, scavenged Garands trickled in. A supply ship dodging IJN cruisers in the slot unloaded crates marked U.S. Army issue that the brass requisitioned for the Leathernecks. Harlan drew one on September 5 during a lull at Bloody Knoll. The rifle weighed 9.5 pounds unloaded, its 24-inch barrel tipped with a parkerized finish that resisted rust better than the Springfield's blued steel. The stock, rich walnut with a pistol grip, felt alive in his hands, balanced, like an extension of his arm. He ran a clip through it at the range. Load the end block into the internal magazine, charge the bolt, fire. Crack! The recoil was a firm shove, not a kick. The gas piston driving the operating rod rearward to eject the spent case. 8 shots blurred into a storm, the final ping ejecting the empty clip onto the dirt like a spent shell from a scattergun. "Jesus, Sarge," Harlan breathed, ears ringing. "It's like cheating." Ruiz grinned wolfishly. "Cheat to win, Tex. Japs charge with bayonets. We greet 'em with this." The test came at Edson's Ridge on September 12th, 13th, the Battle of Bloody Ridge. Kawaguchi's main force, 3,000 strong, slammed into the Lunga perimeter, targeting the ridge held by Colonel Merritt Red Mike Edson's Raiders and 1st Parachute Battalion. Harlan's company reinforced at dusk, humping up the Razorback under a canopy of stars obscured by flares. The Garand slung across his back, Harlan felt its weight a comfort now, not a burden. Slim Kowalski issued one too, fiddled with the safety. "Heard it jams in the rain," he muttered. But Harlan waved it off. The Garand's gas system was tuned for reliability, even if early models gashed thumbs on reloads. The assault hit like a monsoon. Japanese bugles wailed from the jungle, a prelude to the human storm. Arasakas cracked from the tree line, 6.5 mm rounds zipping low, but the Marines held the crest, Garands and Springfields barking defiance. Harlan went prone behind a log, sighting through the Garand's aperture rear and post front. Simple, intuitive. A shadow burst from the ferns, 30 yards out, bayonet fixed. Harlan squeezed. Crack! The 30-06 slug, traveling at 2,800 feet per second, cored the man's torso, exiting in a spray of red. No bolt to work. He fired again at the next, the rifle cycling with a mechanical whisper. Ping! The clip flew, and he slapped in another, the Garand ready before the echo died. The ping became a talisman. Japanese officers, schooled in Bushido's stoic charges, recoiled at the relentless fire. One veteran, later interrogated, described the confusion. "The Americans' rifles, they roar without pause. Our men fall before they close." Kawaguchi's troops, expecting bolt-action parity, faced a firepower revolution. The Garand's semi-auto edge multiplying effective rates from 10 to 15 rounds per minute to 30 to 40, turning defense into slaughter. Harlan's squad held the line through the night, flares turning the ridge to daylight, bodies piling like cordwood. Thibodeau's Garand overheated after 40 rounds, the barrel scorching his glove, but a quick wipe with an oily rag cooled it. Ruiz's 45 saved Harlan once, dropping a sapper lobbing a knee mortar round, but it was the Garands that broke the waves. Crack, ping, crack, a symphony of death echoing to Henderson Field. Dawn revealed the toll, 600 Japanese dead, Edson's men clinging with 100 casualties. Kawaguchi withdrew, bloodied, but the ridge held. Harlan, hands blistered on the Garand's wood, stared at the dawn. Malaria fever simmered in his veins. He'd wake sweating and shaking by week's end, but the rifle grounded him. He told Slim over C rations of corned beef hash. "This ping," he told him, It's the sound of home coming for us. October brought the hammer. The Army's Americal Division reinforced, bringing more Garands, and the 1st Marines rotated to the line for the decisive Battle of Henderson Field, October 23rd through 26th. Vandegrift's 23,000 Marines faced 20,000 Japanese, the Tokyo Express vomiting troops nightly. Harlan's company anchored the southern perimeter, the Garand now standard issue, as stock swelled. The assault came at midnight on the 24th, Sumiyoshi's 17th Army Regiment charging the airfield's edge in classic banzai, bayonets low, Arasakas slung for the rush. Harlan fired from the hip in the muzzle flashes, the Garand's 18-round effective range shrinking the world to 100 yards of kill zone. Crack, crack, 2 down, the slugs tumbling on impact for maximum shock. A Japanese light machine gun, Type 11 with its 6.5mm belt, chattered from a ditch, but Thibodeau flanked it, his Garand suppressing until Ruiz grenaded the crew. The Pineapple Mk2 fragmentation shredded the nest, shrapnel whickering. By 0300, the Garands ran hot, clips pinging into the grass like spent brass from a machine. Japanese survivors broke, their officers' katanas flashing in futile rallies. Harlan took a graze to the forearm, a 6.5mm crease that burned like fire, but stayed in the fight, the Garand's sling biting into his shoulder. Dawn broke on 1,000 enemy dead, the airfield secure, the Marines' first victory in the Solomons. In the afterglow, as corpsmen stitched wounds and buried the fallen, Ruiz gathered the squad under a banyan tree. "That rifle saved our asses," he said, tapping Harlan's Garand. "Japs thought we'd fight fair, bolt for bolt, but this is thunder in a farm boy's hand." Harlan nodded, the fever breaking in chills, but his grip on the rifle steady. Guadalcanal was no end. Tarawa, Saipan, the Marianas loomed, but the ping echoed promise. The M1 Garand wasn't just wood and steel. It was equalizer, avenger, the sound of America waking to war. Part 2. Blood on the Aphel, Tarawa and the Gilberts, 1943. The salt-crusted decks of the USS Zaylan groaned under the weight of Fox Company's survivors as the transport convoy sliced through the equatorial swell toward the Gilbert Islands. It was November 19, 1943, and Private First Class Tommy Harlan, now corporal, the chevron sewn onto his faded utilities by a corpsman with a steady hand, leaned against the rail, the M1 Garand cradled like a talisman across his knees. Guadalcanal had etched lines into his face that no 19-year-old should bear. Hollow cheeks from 6 months of quinine shakes and sea-ration slop. Eyes shadowed by the ghosts of Bloody Ridge. The ping of the Garand still haunted his dreams, a metallic echo amid the screams. But it had saved him and the squad more times than he could count. Sergeant Mike Ruiz, gaunt but unbowed, paced the deck nearby, barking at the green replacements fresh from Camp Pendleton. "Listen up, cherries. Tarawa ain't no picnic. It's a coral reef ringed with concrete bunkers. Japs got 5,000 fanatics dug in, with 8-inch coastal guns that can hull a battleship." Harlan nodded absently, oiling the Garand's operating rod with a worn rag. The rifle, now his third since '42, earlier models swapped for the refined M1C with its reinforced stock, had become an extension of his will. Its semi-automatic soul, gas-tapped from the barrel to cycle the bolt without manual intervention, turned the tide on Guadalcanal, where Japanese bolt actions faltered in the frenzy of banzai rushes. Veterans like Harlan knew the Garand's secrets. The N-block clip's telltale ping could betray a reload under fire, but in the chaos it was a siren's call to press the attack. General Holland Howling Mad Smith, overseeing the 2nd Marine Division's assault on Betio Island, had lobbied hard for full Garand issue after the Solomons. Over 80% of the Leathernecks now carried them, a firepower leap that Tokyo's high command hadn't anticipated. Slim Kowalski, promoted to lance corporal and nursing a perpetual squint from jungle glare, joined Harlan at the rail, his own Garand slung over a shoulder scarred by shrapnel. "Tex, you think these atolls got anything like the canal? No trees to hide in, just sand and pillboxes." Kowalski's Chicago twang carried a tinge honed by loss. Their original squad had shrunk to 7. Thibodeau shipped stateside with malaria-ravaged lungs. Replacements filled the gaps, but trust was earned in blood, not ink. "Worse," Harlan muttered, sighting down the Garand's barrel at the horizon where Betio's silhouette teased like a mirage. Operation Galvanic targeted the Gilberts as a stepping stone to the Marshalls, but Tarawa's defenses were a fortress. 500 pillboxes, 4 8-inch naval guns from the cruiser Tetsuta, and 2,600 troops under Rear Admiral Shibasaki, who boasted 1,000,000 men in 1,000 years couldn't take Betio. The plan, a naval barrage from 7 battleships and cruisers, followed by carrier strikes, then amphibious landing by the 2nd and 8th Marines on November 20. But tides, low at 9 feet, stranding LCVPs on reefs, and unyielding coral promised hell. The pre-invasion bombardment thundered at 0500 on D-Day, Battleship Tennessee's 14-inch shells cratering the Bird's Nest Island, a 3-mile sliver of sand and concrete. Harlan's Huygens boat bobbed in the swell, packed with 36 Marines, Garands stacked between knees, slick with sweat and vomit. Ruiz checked his Thompson submachine gun, the .45 beast for close work, its 30-round stick magazine a hedge against the bunkers. But his eyes lingered on the Garand. "Remember the ping, boys. It don't lie. When you hear it, double down." The ramp dropped at 9:10, and chaos swallowed them. The tide lagged, boats grinding on the reef 700 yards out, forcing wades through chest-deep water under withering fire. Japanese machine guns, Type 92s heavy with 7.7mm belts, raked from log-walled strongpoints, and snipers in coconut log pillboxes picked off the exposed. Harlan plunged in, Garand held high, the salt water lapping his cartridge belt. Bullets churned the sea to foam. A replacement beside him jerked backward, a 7.7 round through the throat. "Keep moving," Ruiz roared, his Thompson chattering to suppress a nest on the pier. The beach, red too, the boat basin, was a slaughter pen. Wrecked Amtraks, barbed wire coils, and bodies bobbing like driftwood. The 2nd Battalion hit at H hour, but only 500 of 1,500 made the shore by noon, casualties mounting to 30%. Harlan hit the sand gasping, knees raw from coral, and rolled into a shell hole, the Garand's sling tangled but intact. Seawater had fouled the action. He worked the bolt dry, spitting salt from his mouth. Slim dragged a wounded radio man behind the dune, his Garand barking at shadows in the palms. Crack, crack, 2 Japanese gunners toppling from a revetment, their Arisikas clattering. The Garand proved its mettle in the maelstrom. Japanese counterattacks, small arms and grenades from spider holes met semi-auto fury. A squad of IJN sailors charged from a trench, bayonets fixed, expecting the bolt-action volleys of old. Harlan fired from the prone, the Garand's adjustable peep sight framing heads at 50 yards. Crack! The operating rod slammed back, ejecting brass. Crack! Another, the 30-06's 150-grain bullet yawing on impact for hydrostatic shock that dropped man-like felled palms. Ping! The clip ejected, and Harlan reloaded mid-burst, the Garand's bolt locking open to accept the fresh end block with a satisfying click. The charge broke, survivors diving for cover, stunned by the rifle's relentless cadence, faster than any Nambu light machine gun they knew. "They're pulling back," Slim yelled, wiping blood, his own or the enemy's, from his bayonet. The Arisaka, elegant in its 31-inch barrel and Mama-san safety, excelled at aimed shots but choked in rapid fire. Its 5-round internal magazine demanded stripper clips and manual cycling, a death sentence in the atoll's choke points. Captured diaries later revealed the shock. Enemy rifles fire without cease, like automatic weapons for all. Shibasaki's men, veterans of Shanghai and Singapore, hadn't faced this American edge before. By 1400, Fox Company clawed inland, the Garands clearing a path through the tank traps and minefields. Ruiz led the push on the command post, a concrete slab bristling with 13mm Hotchkiss guns. Harlan flanked left, prone in a bomb crater, the rifle's bipod legs, added for stability in later models, digging into the sand. A Japanese machine gun crew spotted him, the Hotchkiss belching 13mm rounds that could punch through light armor. Harlan squeezed off 8 in 4 seconds. The first 2 suppressed the gunner, the next felled the loader, the rest stitching the embrasure. Ping! He reloaded as Slim lobbed an MK2 grenade, the Pineapple's 5-second fuse ending the nest in a roar of shrapnel. The squad pressed on, but Tarawa exacted its toll. Night fell like a pall, the island a cacophony of flares and screams. Japanese infiltrators slithered from sewers, Arisakas probing the dark. Harlan's foxhole, shared with a shaken replacement named O'Brien, became a fortress of fire. A shadow lunged, crack. Harlan's Garand lit the night, the muzzle flash etching the kill. But O'Brien hesitated, his bolt jamming on a wet round. Claws raked his throat before Ruiz's Thompson intervened. "Stay frosty, kid," Ruiz growled later, as they buried O'Brien under a scrap of poncho. Casualties hit 50% that first day, 1,115 Marines dead or wounded across the beaches. Dawn of D+1 brought the grind, house to house, bunker to bunker. The 8th Marines reinforced, but the tide remained low, stranding more boats. Harlan's squad assaulted the Red 2 airstrip, a bone-white ribbon scarred by craters. Japanese 20mm anti-aircraft guns, dual-purpose horrors, pivoted to rake the advance. Thibodeau, back from hospital, gaunt as a rail, suppressed with his Garand from a wrecked tractor, the rifle's 400-yard effective range outpacing the Arisaka's sniping. Ping ping, his clips ejected in rhythm, drawing fire while Harlan and Slim flanked. The Garand's versatility shone in the rubble. In open sprints across the airfield, its semi-auto allowed aimed fire on the move. In tight pillbox assaults, bayonet drills followed the barrage. A Japanese lieutenant, cornered in a bomb shelter, charged with his Nambu pistol barking, 7.7mm rounds whizzing past Harlan's ear. Crack, crack, crack. The Garand cycled, slugs hammering the man's chest plate. But it was the follow-up bayonet thrust that ended it, the 16-inch blade slipping between plates. "These bastards don't quit," Harlan panted, wiping the blade on sand. Slim nodded, reloading. "Neither do we. This ping says so." By D+2, the tide turned, literally, with higher water allowing Amtraks to ferry the 6th Marines. But the cost mounted. Dysentery from tainted water, heat exhaustion, and the Garand's own quirks. Clips that stuck in humid stocks, requiring a knife tap to free. Ruiz lost 2 fingers to a grenade splinter during a flamethrower assault on a blockhouse, the M22's napalm whooshing into vents while Garand's covered the retreat. "Worth it," he grunted through morphine, watching the structure belch smoke. Shibasaki's boast crumbled on D3, November 23rd. The last strongpoints fell in a crescendo of fire, Garands raking trenches, mortars cratering roofs, and engineers dynamiting the rest. Harlan's squad cleared the final bunker cluster near the pier, the air thick with cordite and the sweet rot of unburied dead. A holdout sniper winged Slim in the shoulder, a glancing Arasaka round. But Harlan's return fire silenced the nest, the Garand's peep sight true even through tears of rage. Tarawa secured, the toll was staggering. 1,696 Marines killed, 2,100 wounded, over 40% of the landing force. Japanese resistance total, with only 17 survivors from 4,600 defenders. Betio's beaches, pink with coral and blood, became a graveyard, dog tags collected in buckets. Harlan sat amid the wreckage, cleaning his Garand with trembling hands. The barrel pitted from salt, but the action smooth. "Heard the brass is pissed," Slim said, arm in a sling. "Too many good men for one damn atoll." Ruiz, bandaged and promoted to platoon sergeant, overheard. "But we took it in 76 hours. And this?" He tapped Harlan's rifle. "The Japs' ghosts are whispering about the ping already. Their bolts couldn't keep up. Our boys hosed 'em like a fire brigade." Word from interrogations confirmed it. Captured orderlies spoke of panic in the ranks, the endless rifle thunder shattering morale. The Arasaka, prized for its craftsmanship, was outclassed in the atoll's frenzy. Its manual action no match for the Garand's gas-operated ballet. Admiral Nimitz, surveying the carnage, wired Washington. The price was high, but the Garand turned the tide. As the Zealand steamed north to Macon Atoll, Operation Galvanic's quieter prong, where the 4th Marines seized the island with lighter losses, Harlan pondered the rifle in his lap. Tarawa had baptized it in fire, revealing flaws, the ping as a giveaway, clips that corroded in brine, but proving its genius. Semi-auto fire that multiplied a squad's output 5-fold, surprising an enemy schooled in attrition. The Gilberts were just the anvil, the Marshalls, Saipan, the hammers to come. In the hold, as the squad diced for cigarettes under swaying bulbs, Harlan shared a smoke with a new replacement, a kid from Brooklyn named Rossi. "Stick close, Rosie. When the bonsai hits, listen for the ping. Means we're still in the fight." Rossi nodded, wide-eyed, fingering his Garand. The atoll faded astern, but its echoes lingered, a coral scar on the Pacific, etched by thunder. Part 3. Hell's Volcano, Saipan and the Marianas, 1944. The acrid tang of volcanic soil clung to Corporal Tommy Harlan's utilities like a second skin, as the LST-223 beached on Saipan's Yellow Beach 1 under a sky bruised with monsoon clouds. It was June 15, 1944, D-Day for Operation Forager, the Marianas Turkey Shoot, and the 2nd Marine Division's waves churned the turquoise lagoon into froth amid the roar of offshore battleships. Harlan, now a battle-hardened 21 with a Purple Heart pinned to his sea bag back in Hawaii, shouldered his Garand and leapt from the ramp into thigh-deep surf. The rifle, an M1D sniper variant with a scoped barrel for longer engagements, felt heavier after Tarawa's lessons. Its 11-pound frame loaded with 8 .30-06 rounds that could punch through coconut logs at 500 yards. Sergeant Mike Ruiz, his stump of a hand wrapped in a hook prosthetic from a corpsman's hasty surgery, bellowed over the din. "Wedge formation! Garand's high! Japs got 30,000 dug in from hell to breakfast!" Saipan, the linchpin of the Marianas chain, was no atoll scrap. It was a 15-mile dagger of jungle and cane fields, honeycombed with 1,000 caves and fortified by 29,000 Japanese under Lieutenant General Yoshitsugu Saito. The Imperial Navy's carriers, lured into the Philippine Sea, were being eviscerated by Admiral Spruance's Task Force 58, over 600 planes downed in the Marianas Massacre. But on the island, the fight was ground-pounding. 71,000 U.S. troops, Marines and Army alike, tasked with seizing airfields for B-29s to bomb Japan proper. Harlan's Fox Company, 6th Marines, hit the northern beaches. The Garand, now ubiquitous after Springfield phase-outs, its semi-auto Thunder a doctrinal staple. Slim Kowalski splashed beside him, his Garand stock scarred from Tarawa grenades, a new chevron on his sleeve. "Tex, this rock's bigger than Guadal, smells like sulfur and surrender." The squad had gelled into a tight knot. Ruiz the anchor, Harlan the steady shot, Slim the scrapper, and newcomers like Private First Class Joey Rossi, the Brooklyn kid from Tarawa, now with a gambler's grin and a Garand he called Lucky, plus Gator Thibodeau, returned from rehab with lungs like bellows but a grudge deeper than the slot. The landing was deceptively smooth. Pre-bombardment from USS California cratered the shore, and Japanese resistance, scattered Type 92 machine guns and 75mm artillery, crumbled under naval fire. By noon, the 2nd Division pushed 3,000 yards inland, seizing Charan Kanoa and the Orote Peninsula airfield. But Saipan's spine, Mount Tapachau, loomed like a jagged fang, its caves a rat's nest for snipers and mortars. Harlan's platoon fanned into the cane fields, Garand's probing the green stalks that hid Arasaka-wielding holdouts. The Japanese, blending bolt actions with Type 99 light machine guns, relied on concealment. Their 6.5mm rounds whispered from shadows, demanding vigilance. First blood came at dusk near Lake Susupe. A Japanese patrol, Chichiha Nagumo's 47th Independent Regiment, ambushed from a banana grove, Arasaka's cracking in aimed volleys. Harlan dropped prone in the mud. The Garand's adjustable rear sight flipped to 200 yards. Crack! His scoped shot caught a grenadier mid-lob, the 30-06 tumbling him into the reeds. No pause, the gas system cycled, chambering the next. Crack, crack! Flanking a machine gun team, the rounds stitching through foliage. Ping! The clip hit the dirt, and Harlan reloaded seamlessly, the N-block steel carrier glinting in the fading light. Slim's fire overlapped, his Garand hosing a charger whose bayonet gleamed too late. The Japanese broke, but not before a 6.5mm creased Rossi's helmet, the ricochet drawing blood. "Lucky's payback," the kid yelped, firing blindly until Ruiz's hook steadied him. "Breathe, son. Garand don't jam if you don't." Interrogations later painted the enemy's bewilderment. Saipan's defenders, fresh from Rabaul, expected bolt-for-bolt parity, but the American automatic rifle shredded their probes. One POW stammered, "It fires as fast as a knee mortar without reloading between each man." Night clamped down, the squad digging in on a ridge overlooking the Nafuten Peninsula. Flares popped overhead, turning cane to silver, while Japanese Type 97 grenades, potato masher eggs, arced from the dark. Harlan's foxhole, shared with Thibodeau, became a rhythm of vigilance. Sleep in shifts, Garand across the lap, finger off the trigger but ready. An infiltrator slithered close at 0200, Arasaka probing like a blind worm. Thibodeau woke first. Crack! His shot a muzzle flash that lit the kill. The Garand's night sight beads, phosphorescent in the dark, had framed the head perfectly. "Ping in the morning," Thibodeau whispered, reloading. No full bonsai yet. Saito held his regulars for the interior. Dawn of D+2 brought the push, the 4th Marines flanking Mount Tapachau, the 6th grinding central farmlands. Harlan's company assaulted Magazine Bay, a swampy choke where Saito massed 3,000 for a spoiling attack. Naval shells walked ahead, 18 inches from South Dakota, but the jungle swallowed them. Emerging into a clearing pocked with bomb craters, the squad hit the wall. A company of Japanese in camouflaged revetments, Arasakas and Nambus chattering from spider holes. "Suppress and flank," Ruiz ordered, his Thompson, hook braced on the pistol grip, belching .45s to pin the center. Harlan went left with Slim and Rossi, bellies to the muck, Garands barking in controlled bursts. The scoped M1D excelled here. At 300 yards, Harlan picked off a mortar spotter, the round drilling through his helmet. Crack, the recoil a familiar shove. Crack, another, the gas port hissing as powder gases drove the piston. The Japanese, fixed on bolt cycling for aimed fire, couldn't match the volume. Their Type 99s overheated after 100 rounds, belts jamming in the humidity. A countercharge erupted, 200 strong, bayonets low, screaming Bushido defiance. Saito's men, fueled by sake and sake, expected to overrun the soft Americans. But the Garands roared. Harlan fired 24 rounds in 30 seconds, dropping 5 in a swath. The semi-auto's 20 to 30 RPM rate turning the field to a mower's path. Ping ping, clips ejected like brass rain, the sound a psychological lash. Japanese officers yelled, "Tetten, stay and fight," but morale cracked at the endless thunder. Slim's Garand jammed, a bent clip from a fall, but Rossi covered, his Lucky cycling flawlessly, the kid's Brooklyn Cool forged in fire. Ruiz's platoon held the flank, but the cost mounted. Thibodeau took shrapnel to the leg from a knee mortar. The 50mm round's blast cratered the earth. "Gator down," Harlan yelled, dragging him back while covering with snapshots. A corpsman dosed the wound with sulfa, but infection loomed in Saipan's fetid air. By noon, the clearing cleared, 400 Japanese dead, the Marines line intact with 50 casualties. The island's horrors deepened inland. Civilians, Chamorro and Okinawan laborers, wandered the lines, caught in crossfire. Propaganda leaflets urged mass suicides, but many surrendered, eyes wide at the Garand's mercy. Harlan shared rations with a family in a cane shack, the rifle propped nearby like a guard dog. "This ping," he told the father through a translator, "it's not for you folks, it's for the ones who started this." By D+7, the 27th Infantry Division relieved the Marines on the southern tip, but not before the largest banzai in history. July 7, Saito's remnants, 4,000 troops and civilians, charged Tanapig Harbor in a suicidal wave, katanas flashing under flares. Harlan's company, rotated to the perimeter, braced on the cliffs. The Garands formed a wall of fire. Ruiz's Thompson raked the van, but it was the rifles, 100 strong, that annihilated the horde. Harlan, scope zeroed at 100 yards, fired until the barrel steamed, 80 rounds blurring into oblivion. Crack ping crack, the rhythm hypnotic, bodies piling like driftwood. Japanese machine guns in the rear faltered, their water-cooled barrels boiling dry. Arasakas couldn't cycle fast enough amid the press. The charge broke on the rocks, 3,000 dead. Saito's body later found with honorable wounds. Saipan fell June 9 to July 9. Cost, 3,426 U.S. dead, 10,364 wounded, Japanese, 29,000 killed, 1,780 POWs. The Garand's role was etched in reports. Its semi-auto fire repelled charges that bolt actions might have buckled under, the ping a dreaded harbinger. A captured major's diary noted, "The enemy's weapon multiplies men. One rifle fights like 10. Relief brought no respite. Tinian followed, a 6-mile hop across the channel. Harlan's squad crossed July 24 on Amtraks, the Garand waterproofed with tape. Tinian's fields, flat as Kansas, favored the rifle. Long sightlines for the M1D's scope, semi-auto for sweeping fire. Japanese defenses, caves and cane, crumbled faster. By August 1, the island was U.S. B-29 runways under construction. Slim took a sniper's round to the thigh during a cave assault, Arasaka from 400 yards. But Harlan's covering fire silenced it, the Garand's 2,500 FPS velocity outpacing the bolt. Guam, simultaneous with Saipan, saw the 3rd Marines reclaim the pre-war base, but Harlan stayed north, nursing Thibodeau through evacuation. Okinawa next, Ruiz predicted over lukewarm beer in a liberated bar, his hook clinking glasses. Biggest yet, Garand'll sing louder. The Marianas secured, the squad shipped to Pavuvu for refit, Garand's racked in the armory for cleaning. Harlan sat on his bunk, polishing the stock, the walnut glowing under lantern light. Tarawa's coral scars faded, but Saipan's caves lingered, the civilians leaping from cliffs, driven by Tojo's lies. The rifle, with its N-block's efficient feed and gas system's reliability, 99% in tests, even sand-clogged, had been the constant, surprising an enemy with firepower once reserved for machine gun nests. Rossi, dealing cards, grinned. "Tex, your ping's famous now. Jap's got a name for it. American Demon Chime." Harlan chuckled, but his eyes were distant. The Pacific's arc bent toward Japan, but the thunder rolled on. Part 4, Typhoon of Fire, Okinawa and the Road to Tokyo, 1945. The wind howled like a banshee across the Hagushi beaches as the USS Blessman disgorged its cargo into the typhoon-lashed surf of Okinawa on Easter Sunday, April 1, 1945. Love Day for Operation Iceberg, the bloodiest campaign of the Pacific War. Sergeant Tommy Harlan, the Texas farm boy turned scarred veteran at 22, gripped the Garand sling as he waded ashore. The rifle's walnut stock slick with rain and salt water. Waves crashed to 12 feet under the typhoon of steel. But the pre-landing barrage, over 12,000 shells from battleships like the USS Tennessee, had softened the blow, cratering the coral flats and silencing most coastal guns. Harlan's 6th Marine Division, part of the 3rd Amphibious Corps' 180,000 troops, hit the western beaches unopposed. The Garand, M1 now standard, with grenade launchers fitted for bunker busting, slung high against the deluge. Platoon Sergeant Mike Ruiz, his hook prosthetic gleaming wet, scanned the horizon through binoculars. "Eyes sharp, devils. This rock's 60 miles of hell. Jap's got 100,000 waitin' in the south. Caves like Swiss cheese." Okinawa, the keystone of the Pacific, was the final stepping stone to Kyushu and invasion of the home islands. Operation Olympic loomed if the atom bomb faltered. Lieutenant General Mitsuru Ushijima's 32nd Army, entrenched in the Shuri Line's reverse-slope defenses, wielded 20,000 caves honeycombed with concrete, 75mm Type 3 guns, and fanatical conscripts. But the Americans came loaded, 1,000 ships, 300,000 men, and the Garand as the infantryman's scepter. Harlan's squad, Ruiz the Iron Sergeant, Slim Kowalski, back from rehab, thigh stiff but spirit unbroken, Joey Rossi the quick-draw kid, and a rotation of greenhorns like Private Eddie Books Ramirez, a bookish Chicano from L.A. with a Garand he treated like scripture. Pushed inland under the storm, the rifle's Parkerized finish beating water like tears. The first days were a feint of fortune. By April 4, the Marines seized Yontan and Kadena airfields, the Army's 24th Corps wielding north to mop up. Japanese resistance was light. Shells from hidden 320mm spigot mortars, screaming jimmies that lobbed 1,000-pound bombs, but no Banzai hordes. Harlan's company patrolled the limestone ridges, Garand's probing karst outcrops where Okinawa civilians huddled in tombs, their eyes hollow with terror. Propaganda had branded Marines as American devils, but Harlan shared D-bars and cigarettes, the rifle grounded like a peace offering. "This ain't for you, ma'am," he told an old woman through a Nisei interpreter, tapping the Garand. "It's for the ones shootin' from shadows." Slim snorted, wiping rain from his peep sight. "Japs learnin' slow, Tex. After Saipan, they know the ping means trouble, but Ushijima's playin' deep defense." The illusion shattered on April 7th. Kamikazes, over 2,000 sorties in the campaign, slammed the fleet, sinking picket destroyers like the USS Bush in fireballs that lit the night. Harlan watched from a ridge as a Zero screamed low, 550-pound bomb detonating among Amtraks. The blast wave rattled his foxhole, but the Garand stayed zeroed. "Navy's taken the hits," Ruiz growled, his hook clicking on the bolt. "We push south. Shuri's the nut to crack." The drive south turned grind. Reverse slope caves on the Shuri escarpment swallowed artillery, spitting Arisakas and Type 97 grenades from slits. Harlan's platoon assaulted Sugarloaf Hill on May 12th, a 300-foot pimple held by the 15th Division's diehards. The hill changed hands 12 times in 3 days, a meat grinder of 2,662 Marine casualties. Fox Company fixed bayonets at dusk, Garand's leading the charge through razor wire and minefields. Japanese 47mm anti-tank guns, hidden in fissures, barked, shells cratering the slope, but the Garand's answered. Harlan, prone behind a boulder, fired over the crest, the scoped M1D picking spotters at 400 yards. Crack! The gas piston hissed, ejecting brass. Crack! Another, the 30-aught Scrad's flat trajectory, drilling through revetments. Slim flanked right, his Garand lobbing M7 rifle grenades, cup attachments that hurled 60mm anti-personnel bombs 100 yards. The blast shredded a machine gun crew, Type 92's water jacket rupturing in steam. "Grenade out! Cover!" Slim yelled, cycling back to semi-auto. A counter-assault boiled from the caves, 150 Japanese, bayonets fixed, Arisakas slung for the rush. Ushijima's men, expecting bolt-action volleys to break, met the Garand storm. Rossi hosed from the hip, 16 rounds in 8 seconds, dropping 4. Ping, reload, and fire again. The semi-auto's edge, 40 RPM aimed, no manual cycle, turned the slope to slaughter, Japanese falling in windrows, their bolts too slow in the frenzy. Ruiz's Thompson raked the flanks, 45 slugs thudding home, but it was the Garands that held the crest. Books, Ramirez, green as grass, froze at the charge, until Harlan's shout snapped him, "Fire, kid! Let the ping sing!" Ramirez squeezed, the rifle bucking true, his first kills crumpling mid-leap. Later, shaking, he muttered, "Felt like cheatin', Sarge." Ruiz clapped his good hand on the boy's shoulder. "Ain't cheatin' if it works. Japs thought caves made him safe. Our thunder says different." Sugarloaf fell May 21, but the cost scarred. Slim lost an eye to shrapnel, bandaged and medevast with a quip, "Half price now, Tex," leaving Harlan as acting squad leader. The Shuri line cracked under relentless pounding, flamethrowers searing vents, satchel charges collapsing tunnels. But Ushijima withdrew south, scorching earth and conscripting civilians into human shields. By late May, the 6th Marines chased into the Kunigami Peninsula's half-moon pimple, a fortified crescent of ridges. The Garand's trials peaked in the rain-lashed hell of Wana Draw, May 28, June 10, a ravine choked with 2,500 Japanese, booby-trapped tombs, and suicide squads. Harlan's squad cleared caves one by one, dynamite blasts sealing entrances, Garand's suppressing escapees. In a charnel house cavern, lit by flashlight beams, a holdout squad ambushed, Arisakas flashing in the gloom. Harlan fired blind into the dark. The Garand's 18-round capacity a lifeline. Crack, crack, muzzle flashes illuminating falls. Ping, reload by feel, the clip's metallic chime a beacon in the void. Japanese Type 100 submachine guns, 9mm Chatterers, answered, but their 30-round mags overheated fast. The Garand's gas system, tuned for sustained fire, outlasted. Rossi took a bayonet to the arm in the melee, a glancing thrust from a cornered officer. But Books covered, his Garand bayoneting the foe. "Got him, Sarge!" the kid gasped, blade dripping. Interrogated survivors whispered of dread. The American rifle, it speaks alone, without pause. Our spirits break at the sound. Ushijima's diaries, captured later, echoed it. The Garand's volume fire eroded the fight-to-the-death ethos, turning caves into tombs. June brought the end game. Ushijima's final banzai on June 22nd, 1,000 remnants charging from caves near Mabuni Hill, katanas drawn in ritual suicide. Harlan's platoon, dug in on the escarpment, formed the anvil. Flares lit the night as the wave hit, screams of Tenno Heika Banzai. But the Garands reaped. Harlan, scope-fogged but steady, fired 56 rounds from 2 bandoliers, the rifle's bipod anchored in mud. Crack, ping, crack, the cadence mechanical, bodies avalanching down the slope. Ruiz hook steadied a BAR gunner, but the squad's rifles, 8 Garand strong, mowed the line, semi-auto precision outpacing Arasaka desperation. The charge died in the wire. Ushijima and staff found seppuku'd June 23, the island theirs. Okinawa's toll, 12,520 U.S. dead, 38,960 wounded. Japanese, 110,000 military, 100,000 civilian suicides. The Garand, firing over 100 million rounds in the campaign, was lauded in reports. Its reliability in mud, failure rate under 2%, semi-auto rate repelling charges that devoured bolt actions elsewhere. As the squad mopped up, burying the dead, hurting survivors, Harlan cleaned his Garand under a pup tent, the stock worn to a gleam. VJ loomed. Hiroshima and Nagasaki's fire would spare Olympic, but the rifle had paved the road. Ruiz, awaiting discharge, raised a flask. "From Canal to here, Tex, this ping carried us. Japs started with bolts, we ended with thunder." Harlan nodded, sighting the bore at the stars. Slim's eye patch, Rossi's scar, Book's steady hand, they bore the war's brands. But the Garand grounded them. Back stateside, Harlan would ranch again, the rifle cased in glass. Ruiz to El Paso welders, Rossi to Brooklyn stoops. The Pacific's ghosts faded, but the ping echoed. A farm boy's equalizer, the sound that surprised an empire into surrender. In Tokyo Bay, September 2nd, as MacArthur signed aboard Missouri, Harlan, mustered out, Garand shipped home, watched newsreels with Pa. "That rifle, son?" the old man asked. Harlan smiled. "Thunder, Pa. American thunder."